Namaskar everyone and welcome to the Gita Satsang for today. So let us begin with the Prarthana. By the Guru's grace and the will of Sri Krishna, we have all assembled for this Gita Satsang. May we have their guidance to be able to learn and adopt the things which will help us to grow spiritually. Let us chant the shlokas. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय हरये परमात्मने प्रणतक्लेशनाशाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः। रामानुजतया पात्रं ज्ञानवैराग्यभूषणं श्रीमद्वेङ्कटनाथार्यं वन्दे वेदान्तदेशिकं यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्म व्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये। So with prayers at the lotus feet of the Acharyas, let us get started with our topic for today. So, in the previous satsang, we had seen up to the 10th shloka. Today, we are going to take 11, 12, and 13th shlokas of the 7th chapter. So, in the 11th shloka, Krishna tells Arjuna, Balam balavatam chaham kamaraga vivarjitam dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. So, he says, O Bharatarshava, O Arjuna, the one who is the bull among the Bharatas, the one who is very strong among the Bharatas, O Arjuna, I am the strength in the strong people, that kind of strength which is not associated with, which is disassociated with craving and attachment. In all beings, I am Kama. I am the desire which is not contrary to Dharma. Dharma aviruddha Kama. That desire, that Kama, which is not against Dharma. So here Krishna is telling something more. Up to now, whatever we saw the previous few shlokas, Krishna went on telling about the good qualities, the special qualities in whichever object, or about the brilliance of the intelligent people and so on. So he said, I am the valor of men, I am the fragrance of the earth, I am the taste in the water, I am the radiance of the sun, I am the tapas of the ascetics, of the tapasvis, right? So like this, Krishna explained that he is the special good quality in everything. Now he says, I am the strength of the strong people. So when he says that he is the strength of the strong persons, we know from a study of the Itihasas and Puranas that there are many people who have been strong and not all of them have been good, right? So we know of examples like Hiranyakashipu, we know of examples like Ravana, we know about Kamsa, we know so many Rakshasas and Asuras who were actually technically coming under the category of strong. So does Krishna say that I am the strength of those people also? So here the Acharyas explain that Krishna is qualifying this statement with one particular parameter. He says, I am the strength in the strong, which is not associated with craving and attachment, which is not having kama and raga. So if we look at the examples of Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, and all these other Rakshasas and Asuras, they had strength, yes. But what was that strength associated with? It was full of their desire to have power. It was full of their craving. They had lot of attachment to that position of theirs. They had lot of attachment to all the things that they owned. So only for people who have strength, which is not in this kind, which is not having the kama and raga, those people's strength, I am. That is what Krishna is telling here. But in the next sentence itself, so now first he is saying that he is the strength of those people who are not having attachment and all that. But then in the next sentence, he says, I am Kama. So what is the meaning of it? Is he being contradictory here? How can he say one thing in one sentence and another thing, opposite thing in the next sentence? So here again, the Acharyas explain that when Krishna is saying that I am Kama, here, what he means is I am that desire. Kama here does not refer to lust. Rather, it is a desire for those actions which will lead to a good outcome. It is a desire for doing something which is accepted by the Shastras. Right. Now we know, for like we take an example, there are some people who want to have a lot of money. They run behind money, they run behind possessions in this world. They want to have fame and power. For what? For their self-benefit. They want to enjoy that power and fame, or they want to enjoy with that money, or they want to hold that money and property and keep it for themselves. So that is one category of people. And then on the other hand, we have some people who try to raise money, they try to raise funds to be able to do something for society. So if we take a look at this kind of two categories of people, we can make out a clear difference. The first category of people who want something for their selfish benefit, there it is a wrong desire that they have. And that desire is not justified by the Shastras. It is not acceptable by the Shastras. But if there is somebody who is having a desire which involves accumulating money or wealth or any kind of a property in order to be able to use it for doing society service, for doing social service, that kind of a desire is a good desire. So when Krishna says that I am Kama, what he means is that I am that desire which is there in people who do actions which are good actions. Those who have desire to do something for society. Those who have desire to do something good for the benefit of everyone. So that kind of a desire, I am only that desire, Krishna is telling. So previous shlokas, he told that he is special qualities, the good qualities in everything. Now he says, I am strength of the strong people. But here, again, he is clarifying that he is the strength of good people. Those who have strength which is not associated with Kama and Raga. Then he says, I am Kama. But what kind of Kama? The Kama which is not Dharma Viruddha. So that Kama which is sanctioned by Dharma, that desire which is allowed by the Shastras, I am that kind of Kama. That is what he says. Now, how is that relevant here to Arjuna? Now, Arjuna is also fighting this war. For what is he fighting, however? What has Krishna been telling him? The Pandavas, when they agreed to fight in this war, what kind of a war are they fighting? From their point of view, it is a Dharma Yuddha that they are fighting. They are fighting not for their personal benefit. They are not fighting so that they will have a kingdom to rule. They are not fighting because they want power. They are not fighting because they want to selfishly get power and fame and status for themselves. What is their desire? They are born as Kshatriyas, so it is their duty to rule the kingdom, and that kingdom is rightfully theirs, but it has been snatched away from them by unfair means. So their whole purpose of fighting this yuddha is to establish a dharmarajya. So if Arjuna is having a desire for a kingdom, then that he desires not for his selfish ambition, but because he wants to provide dharmarajya. He has to do the duty that he is supposed to do as a kshatriya. So whatever he is doing, if he is fighting in this war against his own brothers and family, what is the purpose of that war? It is to fulfill the purpose of being a kshatriya. It is to provide a righteous rule to the praja. It is to provide a good situation, a good rajya for all the praja. So all these desires of Arjuna, they are in keeping with whatever is prescribed by Shastra. So that desire of Arjuna to rule the kingdom, Krishna says, I am only that desire. So Krishna is here trying to tell Arjuna that you think that you are going to fight this war, but Whatever you are saying now that, oh, they are all my own people, I don't want to fight the war, you are getting misguided now. What is your duty? It is to rule as a Kshatriya. So if you develop the desire that you want to fight in this war and rule this kingdom, that is not a selfish desire, but that is my sankalpa only. So that is what Krishna is trying to indirectly convey here. Now let us move on to the next shloka, the 12th shloka. In that Krishna says, Ye chaiva satvika bhava rajasastamasascha ye matta eveti tan vidhi natvaham teshu te mai. So he's telling Arjuna, oh Arjuna, realize, you understand, come to know that all these states, the three gunas, the sattva state, the rajas state, and the tamas state, they are all having their origin in me alone. But I am not in them, they are in me. So here, what our acharyas explain is that in the previous four shlokas, Krishna claimed that whatever is the positive in everything, including the good desires, the good karma, I am that. Now, Arjuna, hearing this, had a doubt in his mind that if Krishna is saying that he is only responsible for all the good things, then who is responsible for the bad things? So here Krishna wants to clarify that doubt. Whatever there may be in this world, good or bad, all that arises from the different proportions of the three gunas. And where do those three gunas come from? They come from Krishna himself. So in this shloka, Krishna says that all these three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, we have already discussed in previous satsang, so we are familiar with this concept. What is sattva? Everything that keeps a person calm, grounded, filled with devotion, all that is sattva. What is rajas? It is being very restless, mentally very highly active, jumping from one thought to another, and full of energy to all the time be doing something and never in a calm state of mind. That is rajas. And what is tamas? Tamas is inertia, inactivity, always feeling sleepy, always maybe wanting to do harm to others, like that. So these are the three gunas. So Krishna is now answering that doubt in Arjuna's mind, which Arjuna has not spoken out loud. What is Arjuna's doubt? That if Krishna is saying that I am the good in everything, then where does the bad come from? What is responsible for the bad things? So Krishna is saying that whether somebody has good qualities or bad qualities, everything that a person has or every quality that a particular object in this world has, all of that comes because of different proportions of the three gunas in them. If there is a person who is doing a lot of good to society, he has sattva guna and he also has rajo guna to do all that activity. If there is a sadhu who is sitting quietly and doing tapas all by himself, then he is having more of sattva guna and very less of rajo and tamo guna. If there is somebody who is only all the time doing bad to other people, he is having more of tamo guna and equal quantity of rajo guna, and he is not having any much sattva guna, but little bit may be there. So like this, all things in this world, whether they are predominantly sattva, rajas, or tamas, they are mixed up. And all these things are originating from the Lord himself. So if we think that, oh, sattva guna, rajo guna, tamo guna, everything is coming from the Lord, we may tend to misunderstand and say that means the Lord also is influenced by all this. So Krishna is clarifying further in the shloka. He says, all these are having origin in me. They are coming from me, but they do not affect me. I am there in all these gunas, but all the gunas are originating from me. So they are coming out from me, but I am not affected by those gunas. I am not made up of those gunas. The Lord is said to be Trigunatita. He is beyond the three gunas. So these three gunas, these three modes of material nature are within the Lord, but he is independent of them. He is beyond them. Everything that exists in this world is because of the Lord. So the three gunas are also coming because of the Lord, but he is not bound by them. He is not affected by them. He is not influenced by them. He is beyond the three gunas. He is untouched by the gunas. So he is considered as Trigunatita. Now, in the next shloka further, now he is going to explain to Arjuna that I am having all these things. These are all my great qualities. and everything in the world is because of me, and yet people in this world don't realize that. So in the 13th shloka, he says, Tribhir gunamayair bhavair rebhi sarvamidam jagat mohitam nabhijanati mamebhyah paramavyayam. So he says the entire universe, this entire world is deluded. This jagat is totally deluded, mohitam. They are lost, they are confused. How? Because of the conditions originating from the gunas. Because these three gunas are there, that is why people in this world are totally mohita. They are confused, they are deluded, they are not able to see the reality. So they fail to recognize me, and they fail to understand that I am beyond the three gunas and I am avyaya. I don't change, I don't undergo any transformation. I am immutable. So Krishna is trying to explain why we don't recognize his true nature. As Krishna told, if he is the radiance of the sun, if he is the taste of the water, if he is the jnana of the intelligent people, if he is the strength of the balavan, if all these things he is having, and he is only everything of all this what is mentioned, then that means he is responsible for everything in this universe. Then why are we not able to see that? Why don't we understand that? Why, when I look at things, do I see, okay, this is my mother, this is my brother, this is my student, this is my teacher, this is my boss, these are my colleagues, this is the chair in my house, this is my TV, this is my phone. I look at everything as that particular object. I am not able to see that actually in all of that, the Paramatma is there. Why does that happen? Because I am in this state where an avarana has been cast over the knowledge. Because of all the karmas I have done in so many past janmas, I have accumulated so many papas and punyas, and those, my karma vasanas, my papa punyas, everything have created a covering around this knowledge. And therefore, I am not able to experience this jnana. So that is delusion, which is caused by the trigunas, the sattva, rajas, and tamas, which is there within me. That is causing this delusion. I am not able to understand the real nature of the Lord. Now, when we are talking about this theoretically in the satsang, we will listen, we will tell, and we will feel that, oh yes, Lord is in everything. But the very next moment, if something happens, after I finish this satsang, I go out, and then I find that somebody has come to my house. I'm talking to that person, or I'm going and I'm cooking something in the kitchen, or I'm going and I'm reading something on my phone. What happens in that moment? All this knowledge goes away. Then I get lost in that moment, what I am, and I see things as what those things are. I don't see that the Lord is only in everything. I don't see that Lord only is responsible for all of this. That knowledge goes away. Why is that? Because whatever I may be talking, I may be trying to understand, is only at the intellectual level. In reality, whatever my life happens, that is influenced by these trigunas. So because of that, there is this delusion, there is this moha which is created. The buddhi gets confused. So that is because of the delusion caused by the trigunas. So to understand that, we will recall some very famous stories. For example, we know in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is described how when Krishna was having a very jolly time with all his Gopa friends in the forests of Vrindavan, then seeing that Brahma himself got deluded. We know that incident, right? So what Brahma did, he came and he saw and he thought, oh, what is this one cowherd boy? He is having Krishna, he knows, Brahma knew that Krishna is Sakshat Bhagavan himself. But yet, even that Brahma got deluded. He got carried away. Why? Because Brahma is also not devoid of the Trigunas. He is, although he may be a very high level Devata, he is still having Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas in him. So he too got deluded. He thought, who is this Krishna to enjoy all these things and have so much, status among these Gopas? I will teach him a lesson. So what did Brahma do? He took away all the cows. When Krishna was sitting with his friends and eating food, they were all enjoying and having a good time. Suddenly, the cows which were grazing around them disappeared. So Krishna said, okay, I will go in search of the cows. So he goes and tries to find. He finds all the cows have disappeared. Then he comes back to the place where the boys were sitting. Suddenly he sees that the boys also have disappeared. Now, with his antarjnana, he knows that all this is done by Brahma. What Brahma has done, he has kidnapped all these boys and all the cows, and he's taking them to his Brahmaloka because he wants to kind of play a trick on Krishna. He wants to, in his words, teach Krishna a lesson. So he wants to make Krishna come and ask him for help or something like that. So what Brahma does, he takes all these people and starts going to Brahmaloka. Before Brahma can reach there, Krishna goes to Brahmaloka and he sits there in the form of Brahma. When this Brahma, real Brahma, comes there, the the Dwarapalakas there, they stop him and they say, who are you? The real Brahma is sitting inside. You are somebody fake. And yes, that real Brahma who's sitting inside has told me that one fake Brahma will come with some many boys and cows, and I should send you away. So the Dwarapalakas refuse to let Brahma come into to his own Brahmaloka. This incident suddenly removes that delusion from Brahma's eyes, and he realizes, oh, this Krishna is none but the Supreme Lord. How I got carried away in my ignorance. I got carried away, and I thought that I will try to be one upon the Lord himself. He is my father, and to him I have tried to do such a wrong thing. So he realizes and he feels sad. He feels, what you say, repentant about his mistake. And then he goes back to Bhuloka and he goes to that place where Krishna was with the boys and the cows. And there, Krishna is there. He goes and falls at Krishna's feet and he begs forgiveness and says, please forgive me. I got mohita. I got carried away. I was deluded. I could not see your real greatness. Please forgive me. And of course, Krishna forgives him later. So, like that, even great people like Brahma. Then we know the example of Indra. We know what happened in the Govardhana Leela, right? Indra, Krishna said that we will offer worship to Govardhana mountain and not to Indra, because he realized that Indra's pride had become too much. When he said that and all the people in Vrindavan offered prayers to Govardhana mountain, then Indra got very angry. He sent a huge deluge. And in that time, Krishna lifted Govardhan and protected the people and the cows and everything in Vrindavan. And not one bit of harm came to them. So seeing all that, finally, Indra realized his folly. He also came and begged forgiveness from Krishna. So from these examples, we see that even somebody who is of the caliber of Brahma and Indra. Who are these Brahma and Indra? They are actually certain positions. They are not individuals, they are sthana, they are posts. So some Atma, some Jivatma, which has done lot of punyas and has accumulated a large amount of merit, gets to sit in that position. So Brahma and Indra are people who have very high level of sattva guna and lesser amount, very little or almost no tamo guna, little rajoguna. Now, even those people who are sattva predominant, like Indra and Brahma, sitting in that high position, they fail to realize the true nature of Krishna, the true nature of Lord Sriman Narayana at all times. If that is the case, then what about us, ordinary people, isn't it? And yet, the Acharyas give us the example of some very great, some bhaktas who were living like ordinary people, but who could recognize the greatness of the Lord. I'm sure we have heard these stories also. There was one lady who was selling those jamun fruits in Braja Bhumi, and she would go around selling all the fruits. And Krishna one day came and said, please give me fruits. So he brought some little grains of rice in his hand and he gave it to her and said, please give me the fruits. She said, I will give you fruits, but I don't want these grains of rice. I want you to give me some bigger reward. So he said, what do you want? She said, I want you to give me moksha. Krishna was surprised. He says, what? How can I give moksha in return for fruits? She said, no, you can give. He said, how do you know? How do you think I am the one who is able to give moksha? She told him, when you opened your hands to give me those grains of rice, I could see that there was Shankha Chakra Lanchana on your palms. And from that, I recognized that you are the Supreme Lord. So, one normal, ordinary lady in Vrajabhumi selling fruits knew the true real identity of Krishna. But Brahma and Indra forgot that. Similarly, we have the other story where once there was a potter. Krishna was running away from his mother after doing some mischief, and he went and he came near this potter's hut and he begged that potter that please put me inside your pot and please protect me and hide me from my mother. So the potter allowed Krishna to go and sit inside the pot. Then when Yashoda came there and she asked, he said, "You look around. I don't think he's anywhere here." She just looked around that place and she didn't find Krishna. She went away. Then this potter slowly he came near that pot and he had covered it. And then Krishna said, "Okay, okay, now my mother has gone away. You please release me from the pot." The potter said, "I will release you, but you have to promise me something. You have to give whatever I ask." So Krishna says, "Okay, fine. You tell me what you want. I will give, but first let me out of the pot." So then the potter says, "I want you to give me moksha. Then only I will let you out of the pot." Krishna agrees. And then the potter demands, "Not only me, but this pot." See, we think that somebody who is having Chaitanya, a Jivatma, which is in a Sharira, which is having high level of knowledge, that only can do sadhana and go to moksha. But in this case, we realize that that potter, he asked that my pot also should be given moksha. What punya that pot had accumulated, what karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga the pot had done, but that pot also got moksha because it was associated with that potter and Krishna gave moksha to both of them. So how did this potter know? He could recognize. He was just an uneducated, simple man who was making pots for a living, but he knew the true identity of Krishna. So what is it that it shows us? Even somebody like a potter, even somebody like that jamun seller can know the true real identity of the Lord when he comes as a mischievous boy in Gokula. But Brahma and Indra, who are in such high positions, they themselves forget the true identity of the Lord. Like that, we must understand from this that these things, we are not able to see that the Lord is there in everything because of the delusion caused by the Trigunas. So, if somebody like Brahma and Indra are also not spared from those delusions, then we are just normal, ordinary people, human beings in this world. We are not devas. We are not living in Swargaloka or in Brahmaloka. We are here in Bhuloka. And so, definitely, we will have so much of that Rajatamatmaka qualities which are interfering with us. We must constantly keep listening to these stories. We must constantly keep contemplating on these verses and slowly, slowly try to practice that quality of the Lord, of understanding that the Lord is responsible for everything in this universe, that He is there inside everything, inside every Jivatma, inside every object in this world. The Supreme Lord, the Paramatma, is there within everything. And everything in this universe is made up of Him entirely. Right? Now, here, if you look at this picture, I have put this photo of Lord called Gosakhan at a temple in a place called Theralandur in Tamil Nadu. So it is told that when Brahma came down, right, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is told that he went down to that same place where Krishna was in that vana with the Gopas. But in this kshetra, they tell that this is the place where Brahma came to seek the blessings of Krishna, to seek forgiveness from Krishna. And there, then Krishna was there with all his gopas, with all the cows and everything. So in this temple, the form of the Lord, if you look at this Utsava Murti which is placed in front, the Lord is in the center with the Devis, and then there is one cow and one tiny calf near his feet. So in this temple, he is called as Gosakhan, the Sakha of the Gopas, the Sakha of the Gaus. So he is the Sakha of the cows, he is the Sakha of the calves, he is the Sakha of the Gopas and Gopis also. He is the lifelong friend for all of them. So at this Theralandur temple, they say that this is where Brahma came and begged forgiveness from the Lord. So I've just put that picture here because it comes up incidentally as a part of this Brahma Vimohan Lila. So similarly, like this, like how even ordinary fruit seller and potter could recognize the greatness of Krishna and his true identity. Like that, we have some very ordinary people who are not well versed in the Shastras and all that, who could understand the total, greatness of some of the acharyas. So there is this example which is told of this lady called Tumbayur Kondi. This Tumbayur Kondi is one lady who was there in Tirupati. Okay, in Tirumala. So what happened is, once when Swami Ramanujacharya was staying in that place and his Shishyas and all of them were staying there, they had gone there to pay respects to the Lord Venkateshwara. When they stayed in the ashram there, in the mutt there for many days, this lady called Tumbayur Kondi had provided them milk and curd and all that. So finally, one day when they were about to leave from that place, that lady came there and she met the disciples of Swami Ramanujacharya. That time, they thought that she has come to ask money because she has supplied milk and curds. So they said, you please tell us the account, how much we owe you, and we will arrange for that money to be paid to you. So she said, you think I supplied you milk and curd all these days because I will get money from you? I don't want money from you. Your Acharya, Swami Ramanuja, has some bigger power. I want something more from him. So they asked her, what is it that you want? Why did you supply then the milk and curd? What is your desire? What do you want to ask Swami? So she said, no, I have heard people talking that Swami Ramanuja is the Lord. He is the master of this Leela Vibhuti as well as Nitya Vibhuti. Lord has given him only supreme right to decide who gets to go to moksha. I have heard people talk about that. So I want him to write me a note and give to the Lord. So I will go to Tirupati, I will go and see Venkateshwara, and I will present this note, this letter from Ramanuja, permitting me to get moksha. Only if Ramanujacharya writes and gives this letter, then Venkateshwara will give me moksha. She said like that. And these disciples were shocked. What is she telling? So they went and reported this to Swami Ramanuja. Very calmly, the Swami took one of those, whatever the leaflets on which they were writing, and on that he wrote to Venkateshwara saying that this lady, Tumbayur Kondi, is going to come to you. Please grant her moksha. She started walking. She took that with great joy. She took that letter and she started walking uphill. And it is said that Lord Venkateshwara himself came as she was walking up. He came, gave her darshan halfway through. And at that very moment, she went to moksha. So what was the knowledge of this Tumbayur Kondi? What great yogas had she done? Had she done Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga? Did she have some great knowledge of all the Shastras? Had she studied all the different texts, all that? Nothing. But she could recognize who is the one who is going to grant moksha. So like this, we need to keep constantly reminding ourselves. We get lost in this world. We forget what is the true nature of the Lord. We get completely drowned in samsara. But from time to time, we should keep listening to these things. We should keep reading about these things. And we should keep reminding ourselves of this reality which the Lord has told in this shloka. That because we are deluded by the trigunas and the conditions coming from the trigunas, we fail to recognize that the Lord is the originator for all this, that he is beyond them and he is ever existing. He is not given to any kind of change and transformation. That will help us to develop more and more bhakti, more and more devotion for the Lord. So let us pray that Krishna will bless us to be able to develop this mindset, to remain like this in contemplation of the Lord, and to be able to appreciate his true identity and realize that he is the master and we are only his belongings. We are his dasas, we are his servants, and we will be motivated to do every act in our life as an act of kainkarya, as an act of seva towards the Lord. With that, we will be able to progress further. So with that, we have come to the end of our topic for today. Let us stop here for now and offer gratitude at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna and Guru, who inspired us to start this satsang, to join this satsang, and let us pray that their blessings and grace will always be on us. Thank you everyone for attending, and we will meet again next week as usual. Namaskar.